Formula One is about to smash the biggest reset button in its modern history. Seriously. In 2026, everything you think you know about who's fast and who's not, well, you can just throw it right out the window.
Because this isn't just a rule change. The sport is completely rewriting its DNA. The champs of today could be the backmarkers of tomorrow, and a team from the midfield could, suddenly find that one magic bullet. So, the big question we're going to try and answer today is, when all the dust settles on this brand new era, who is going to be left standing on top?
And I've got to stress, this is not your typical end-of-season tweak. This is a total systemic reset. For the very first time, F1 is overhauling the engines, the aero philosophy, and the cost cap rules, all at the exact same time. What that really means is, everything that came before, pretty much irrelevant. You can't hide a weak engine with a great chassis anymore, or the other way around. Everything has to be perfect.
So, to crack this case, to figure out who's going to win, we first need to understand the weapons they'll be fighting with. These new regulations, these are the clues that are going to point us toward the answer.
The number one clue, the biggest piece of this whole puzzle, is the power unit. We're moving to something called the 50-50 hybrid concept, and it's a huge philosophical shift. We're going from an engine that's all about combustion to a perfectly balanced hybrid system where the electrical power is every bit as important as the V6 engine itself. Okay, now this is where it gets really wild. Just look at the scale of this change. The power from the engine gets slashed from around 850 horsepower all the way down to 540. But to make up for it, the electrical power from the MJUK has almost tripled to a massive 350 kilowatts. Oh, and you see that MGUH, that notoriously complex and expensive bit of kit? Gone. Completely gone. This changes the entire game of how you make and use power in F1.
All right, next up, aero. And you can just go ahead and say goodbye to DRS as we know it. It's being replaced by this much more dynamic, active aero system. Now, drivers will have two modes they can flip between on every single lap. You've got Z mode, think of that as max grip mode for the corners, and then you have X mode, which flattens out both the front and rear wings on the straights to just slice through the air. And to replace DRS as a tool for overtaking, we get this, the manual override mode. You can think of it like a push-to-pass button, but on steroids. When you're chasing another car, you can deploy your full 350 kilowatts of battery power all the way up to 337 kilometers per hour. But the car in front? Their electrical boost starts to fade away much, much earlier. It's designed to create this huge speed difference, a whole new tactical weapon for racing.
So we've got the rules, we've got our clues. Who are the main suspects? Well, in this new era, the biggest advantage isn't something you build in a factory. It's something that's born inside the minds of the people who are designing these incredible cars. You know, the sheer complexity of these new rules has kicked off this high-stakes game of musical chairs for the sport's biggest brains. Teams are basically hoarding talent. We've seen the legendary Adrian Newey jump to Aston Martin, and Ferrari poached the tire guru Loic Serra. These aren't just small moves. These are the kind of people that can fundamentally change who wins and who loses. But here's the twist. It's not just about who has the smartest people. The rules have this really clever built-in handicap system called aerodynamic testing restrictions, or ATR. Basically, the better you finish in 2025, the less wind tunnel and simulation time you get to develop your 2026 car. So a team like McLaren, who wins, gets the least time, while a team like Alpine gets a massive leg up. And this chart just lays it all out, plain and simple. Look at that gap. McLaren, stuck down at 70%, has to be incredibly efficient. They have to get their ideas right the very first time. But Alpine, with a whopping 115%, they have the freedom to experiment, to fail, to try radical ideas. It's a powerful tool designed to bunch the whole field up. Okay, so enough of the theory. Let's get to the juicy stuff, the first real evidence from the track. Preseason testing in Bahrain gave us our first real glimpse of who's holding a great hand and, well, who might be bluffing. And right out of the gate, we get a bombshell, and it's coming from Mercedes. Word in the paddock is that they've found a genius-level loophole in the engine rules. They've reportedly built an engine that uses thermal expansion. It literally grows when it gets hot to legally squeeze past the maximum compression ratio limit. It is pure thermodynamic sorcery. So what does all that technical magic actually get you on a stopwatch? Well, the estimates are that it's worth an extra 15 horsepower. And that translates to a massive 0.3 of a second per lap. And the best part for Mercedes, it's totally legal, at least until the FIA figures out how to close that loophole mid-season.
Elsewhere on the engine front, Ferrari has apparently built a one-lap monster for qualifying, but the data shows it suffers from something called derating, which means it loses power over a long race. And the big surprise has been the new Red Bull Ford power unit. It's brilliant at recovering energy, so it doesn't run out of juice on the streets, but it might just lack that ultimate top-end power that Mercedes and Ferrari have.
But it's not all about the engine. Look at McLaren. Despite having less development time, they just pounded out the laps in testing. 817 of them. That tells you two things. One, their car is bulletproof reliable, and two, their computer simulations are matching up with reality. They're not wasting time fixing problems. They're already hunting for more speed.
And then you have Aston Martin. Their test was, to put it mildly, a disaster. It seems Adrian Newey's famous tight packaging philosophy might have bitten him back this time, causing all sorts of overheating problems for the new Honda engine. They ran the fewest laps of anybody, and that means they are way behind on crucial data. So let's put it all together. Here's how things shook out after testing. Yeah, Ferrari set the fastest single lap, and that's great for headlines, but the column you really need to look at is total laps. McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes, they all logged huge mileage. That means their cars are fundamentally solid. Reliability is king in a new rules era, and this table tells a very, very clear story. All right, the moment of truth. We've reviewed all the clues, we've analyzed the evidence from the track. It is time for the verdict. We've fed all of this data, engine power, reliability, those ATR allowances, even driver skill, into a predictive model to see what 2026 might look like. And based on all that data, our model is projecting a complete and total shakeup of the Formula One pecking order.
And here it is. The model predicts that Mercedes-AMG will storm back to the top of the mountain and take the Constructors' Championship. That early season engine advantage they have, that clever loophole, it's just projected to be too powerful an ace up their sleeve for anyone else to overcome. Ferrari looks set for a strong second, with McLaren and Red Bull fighting it out for third.
And of course, with a dominant car usually comes the biggest prize of all for a driver. The model is calling it, we are going to have a brand new world champion in 2026. The model crowns George Russell as the 2026 Formula One World Drivers' Champion. His super analytical, super precise driving style is seen as the perfect tool to extract every last bit of performance from these incredibly complex new cars, especially that Mercedes. Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen are predicted to be right there in the fight, but in the end, the model says the car advantage will just be too much to overcome. But of course, that's just what the computer says. A predictive model is one thing. A 24-race, globe-trotting championship, that's a whole other beast. So the only question left is the big one. Will this simulation survive its first contact with reality? Once the lights go out, I guess we'll all find out together.